Want to learn how to generate a steady stream of quality B2B leads for your business? Then stay tuned. Hey, I'm Sam Dunning, co-owner over at webchoiceuk.com and host of the Top 100 B2B Marketing Podcast, Business Growth Show. And if you haven't yet, check out my weekly email where I share actual website and B2B marketing tips, useful goodies, podcasts, resources, and more each and every week. Kick off your week with a bang. Give it a shot over at businessgrowth.email. So today's episode is taken from a recent interview where Saurabh Kaura interviewed me for the Ultimate Global Podcast. I share all things B2B marketing best practices, how to generate quality leads with your website, and how to make best use of SEO. Let's dive in.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Ultimate Global Podcast. And in this podcast, we are specifically going to talk about website and SEO. And I think that this is a very critical element from a marketing point of view, how many leads you are generating on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis. And that is kind of translating into sales at the end of the day. So marketing and sales, as I always consider, that they go hand in hand. More the number of leads, more the chances for you to convert those leads into paying customers. But of course, it's also important that you don't only generate leads, but you generate genuine leads. You generate warm leads. You don't generate leads for the sake of generating leads. So I guess one of the best people can be Sam Dunning. He's from the UK and he's the co-owner of WebChoice. He guides businesses on how to generate leads. So I'll pass it on to you, Sam, and let you introduce yourself and a bit about your business.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on, Saurabh. So yeah, Sam Dunning. I'm one of the owners at webchoiceuk.com. Essentially, we build websites and SEO strategies that generate a steady flow of qualified sales leads for B2B companies mostly. But apart from that, I also run a podcast too called Business Growth Show. It's a B2B marketing podcast, and every week we share actionable website and marketing tips. And we also interview B2B marketing leaders to share kind of tips you can put into play for your business right away. That's us.
Sounds really exciting, Sam. You seem to be doing multiple things. You're running your own business. You're also running a podcast. So that's pretty exciting stuff happening at your end, isn't it?
Always things to do, man. Yeah, I enjoy it. The podcast means I can mess about and learn from people that are smarter than me, and also put out content for our YouTube, for our podcast channel, for LinkedIn, where I love to waste time, and then otherwise mess around with WebChoice, helping, like I say, businesses with their websites. I really enjoy doing kind of SEO strategies, ultimately helping fuel their sales team with quality sales pipeline. That's where I get my kicks from.
Yeah, of course. And I think just for the reference of the listeners as well, and for your reference as well, that this is you're the 52nd speaker in this podcast. We started off this podcast a year back, and I definitely feel that podcasting is getting very popular amongst companies to generate leads, another source of generating leads, because you're kind of building your brand in the market.
Yep.
And when any of your potential leads look at that, they see you and they consider you as an expert in that particular industry. So I will start off with that question only before moving on to any technicalities. Is that what's the one mantra that you provide to your customers as to how they can generate warm leads?
Yep, how they can generate leads. So, well, we normally say the website's the foundation of the process. So it depends really. Are we talking about B2B companies in general, how they can drive warm leads?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to touch upon B2B, B2C, both of them, give a comparison, up to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's quite an open question, right? So I'll give a high level answer and then you can dive into it as deep as you wish. But let's say you're a B2B company and you want to drive warm leads for your business, then typically the main thing you want to do is one of the starting points is a bit of research. So you actually want to know, who am I targeting? Who are my focus clients? Who is this ideal client I want to be selling to? And where do they hang out? Like if they're B2B, then they're probably using channels like LinkedIn to consume content, scroll the feed. If they are actively searching for your product or service or a specific upgrade to their business, whether that's they're looking for some CRM software, accounting software, whatever the heck they need, they might be going to Google search and using that, either clicking an organic listing or a paid listing there. They might be going to review or comparison sites. So they might be going to things like G2 or Tech Radar or those kind of review sites where they can get more insights into what you offer. They might be looking at or consuming podcasts or checking out YouTube to learn more about your niche or your service or your operation, or kind of getting their own ideas and educating themselves. So there's a bunch of different channels, and there's many more. That could be on Slack groups or communities. So one of the main things you firstly want to do is, when it comes to generating inbound, you want to actually know where your target prospects are hanging out, rather than doing random marketing on channels and hoping for the best, because that's just going to waste either your time of your team, or it's going to waste your money if you're spending that on marketing or advertising activities. And then you want to basically invest in one or two of those channels to start off with. So ultimately, if you're a B2B business, what makes sense first and foremost is to go to what we call high intent channels. So what I mean by that is where people go when they need your product or service right here, right now. Typically, one of the best places for this is Google search. So whether that is the paid search or the sponsored listings with Google AdWords, which typically show up at the top of your search results or sometimes at the bottom. So for example, let's say you offered accountancy software. Maybe it was a finance company. So if someone searches financial accountancy software, your ad's going to show. Or likewise, you might want to consider SEO, which is the organic non-paid listings, which is more of a longer term strategy that we can dive into some tips and tricks on how you can do SEO for your business in a bit. So yeah, thinking of those, because the reason they're high intent is basically if someone searches, I don't know, finance CRM for my company or something like that, chances are they need it. So if they go to your website, they're going to probably click through, learn a bit more about what you do, maybe check out some results you've got for clients, maybe check out your pricing page. And if that ticks all the boxes, they're going to request to speak to sales. So they can request a demo or request to consult or whatever your call to action is. So usually you want to start, if you're going to market as a B2B company, you want to drive kind of high intent leads. You want to look at these high intent channels like Google search or Google paid search. Organic SEO is going to take longer. And we can, like I say, dive into that strategy or paid search. Another high intent channel is review sites. So these review sites tend to rank really well on Google search as well. So things like G2, Capterra, Trust Radius, depending on if you're US or UK, those review sites rank really well on Google. You can pay to get a sponsored listing on those, and you can start driving high quality traffic and high intent leads, get demo requests to your site. Then you probably, if you're B2B, like we said, some free options, some like non-paid options are creating content on LinkedIn. So building up your authority, building up your reputation by sharing tips, stories, insights, building up your audience on LinkedIn. And that way you can drive kind of traffic to your site or direct in the DMs to you, or starting kind of your own podcast like we're doing now, building up that industry expertise, reputation. But the main thing of all of this is that your website is the foundation. So a lot of these people, these prospects are going to be checking out your website, and typically B2B buyers, when they head to a site, they want to really quickly see kind of what you do, how it's going to help them. They probably want to check out some results or case studies that you've got for past customers and clients. And then they're probably going to check out your pricing, make sure they can actually afford what you do. And on the basis that they're happy and comfortable with all of that, they're probably then going to request a demo or consult or whatever that next step is in your sales process. So those are some high level overviews, but happy to dive deeper in any of those.
Well, yeah, that's really exciting to know. A lot of things that you have already told, including podcasts, looking at the right prospects, looking at those key metrics that really will define how you're getting those leads, and then qualifying them to potential sales opportunities. But while we are targeting those leads, what are some of the key metrics that the company should really focus on?
In terms of your website, or in terms of the leads, or in terms of just need a bit
In
of
terms of the
context?
leads, in terms of the leads, what should they be looking at? What kind of leads they are targeting? So, would you like to dig a bit deeper into that? You told about it a bit
Yeah.
briefly. Would you like to dig a bit deeper into that?
Yeah. So I guess I'll give you a few options. I mean, in terms of lead gen, so B2B companies, you have different types of leads, right? So you've got MQLs, marketing qualified leads, which might be someone that headed to your website or downloaded like an ebook or a guide or a white paper. So that's typically those kind of MQLs, marketing qualified leads. Those need some nurturing. So they might need to be shown content over a period of time, whether that's like an email nurture with a drip feed of email content and educational stuff over weeks or months until that prospect is eventually ready to speak to your sales team. Or you've got SQLs, so sales qualified leads. These kind of leads are typically people that actually go and raise their hand and say, I'm ready to speak to sales right here, right now. So they'll fill out your requested demo time, or they'll book time on your sales rep's calendar, or they'll book a consult. They'll fill out a form for that. So different types of leads, really. I mean, depending on the size of your organization and how many sales reps that you need, you might take an approach where you do both and you generate a ton of MQLs. You might run things like LinkedIn ads where people do form fills. You might, like I say, have gated ebooks. You might run webinars where you get people to sign up with their email, and then you might nurture these people over time with content, with email feeds, with ads on LinkedIn, nurturing them. Or likewise, you've got the high intent leads, which typically, if you're running things like I talked about earlier, like Google organic search, Google paid search for search terms where people are actually needing your product right here, right now, then on the basis your website does a good job, you can point them to kind of book that demo or book that consult, which is going to be a sales qualified lead as opposed to an MQL.
That's true. I think some of the times a lot of the companies make mistakes as well in terms of what kind of keywords they should be using, or they try out a lot of keywords quite frequently. They don't stick with that. So I guess it will be really important for us to discuss in this podcast the importance of keywords, and the importance of using the right keywords for different companies, and probably sticking to that and testing that out for some time, isn't it?
Yeah. So you mean from an organic SEO perspective? So ranking on
Yeah,
Google for
yeah.
certain search terms? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, usually if you're starting an SEO campaign and you want your website to rank on Google organic search, you can do keyword research for paid search as well, Google Ads. So first and foremost, you need to see how competitive the market is. So for example, if you're in a massively competitive space, so for example, if you're selling CRM software, which I often talk about, then the leaders in the market like Salesforce, HubSpot, etc., they're just going to dominate. So if you're looking at general terms like CRM companies, CRM software, unless you've got hundreds and thousands to pump into a marketing spend, you're not even going to make a dent. You're just going to be a drop in the ocean, and you're probably never ever going to rank against these beasts in the industry. So you probably want to niche down initially. So when you're doing your research into search terms, keywords that you want to rank for, you want to go niche. You want to do what's called longer tail keywords, which typically have 3 words or more. So instead of just targeting things like CRM software, you might want to go very specific to what you're offering. So if you offered, I don't know, CRM for accountancy companies or CRM for sales teams, then you could hone in on that, like CRM for sales companies or sales company CRM provider or best CRM for sales teams, those kind of things. Because that way you're not going against the monsters, you're niching down the search results, and you're providing more intent. So if a sales team actually needs a dedicated CRM for themselves, they're more likely to find what you need. So those are what's called high intent keywords. Those are probably the ones you want to look at initially. So chances are if someone types in one of those, then they're probably going to request a demo if your website builds trust with them and converts them effectively. And then you've got things like the middle of the funnel, where people are maybe comparing you to maybe a couple of other providers. So let's say you know one of your competitors. So for example, if you were looking at HubSpot, you might say HubSpot versus Salesforce, or you might say Software 1 versus Software 2, where you basically giving people the options that want to compare. And then you've got kind of real top of the funnel searches where people are still in the educational side of their journey. So when they might be searching things like how to find the best CRM for a sales team, or what to consider when investing in CRM, or what kind of companies need CRM, or do sales teams need CRM? So these kind of things where you can actually position your website as more of an authority, give people useful tips, because these keywords are probably going to link through to blog articles. Then they can read them out. They might get the tips they need, then they might sign up for your newsletter or they might sign up for a webinar. So it's people that are really early on in your journey that might consume some of your content, sign up for a guide or something like that. And then over time, you can kind of nurture them. So those are like the 3 tiers of kind of top of funnel searches, middle of funnel searches, and bottom of funnel searches where people are likely ready to buy. Those are some things you probably want to consider when you're doing your research into keywords. And then you can start looking at what's called on-site SEO, where you build out the content of your website, you build out the main pages, and you build out the service pages and your blog articles and your resources and all that good stuff. And also something called technical SEO, which we can jump into if you wish.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think I was just thinking about this fact that in these times, the companies are making not only the mistakes in the keywords, but it also depends on the content that you're putting out. If the content is not relevant enough, I might go there, but it might not lead to any conversion to a sale, or it might not bring any prospect to the sales team because your content wasn't catchy, your content wasn't as glamorous to be converted into a sale. So I guess there's a lot to do with a mix of issues here in terms of the SEO and the content that you produce. And I think that's where I really feel that the companies should definitely have a person who is specifically working towards the SEO part and figuring out what can be done from the SEO point of view in terms of organic leads, or what can be possible mistakes, or they can outsource to people like Sam Dunning, who are doing a wonderful job, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, you've raised a good point there. In terms of pages, so let's say you've done your keyword research, you've nailed down the search terms you want your site to rank for, you've maybe done your on-page SEO, so you've built out. Typically, if you're doing that, you want to build out information pages for each of the main services or products you offer, and maybe the locations too. Essentially, think of your website as the go-to resource for your company, or for your industry rather. So if people are thinking your sector, if they think of your website, you position your website as an educational tool as well as a conversion tool. It's going to help you a lot from that SEO and content mindset. But going back to your point there, you're exactly right. So there's no point driving people to a page if it's not going to give them the information they need quickly, if it's not going to answer their questions, if it's not going to handle their objections, if it's not going to build trust with them and then convert them. So point them to book a call or whatever that action you want them to take with your sales team is. So some ideas to do this are actually understand what your customers, what your audience care about. So thinking of things like, what are the common questions we get on sales calls around this topic? What are the common objections and frustrations we get on sales calls around this topic? If you don't know yourself, then you need to listen to your sales team. You can get them round, you can have a coffee, you can have a beer with them. You can say, look, what are the top questions that the people ask are on this product or on this service that we're building out content for? Or you can listen to sales calls yourself, or if you're the founder of your business and you're a 1 or 2 man band, then you'll know this intel already. So yeah, making sure, because Google recently rolled out an update called helpful content, and essentially one of the cruxes of this is giving people information they need fast, making sure it's relevant, making sure it's helpful, and not like clickbaity, just drawing people in and not really giving them what they're searching for. So yeah, making sure when someone lands on this service page or this information page, you're saying, look, this is what we do, this is how we can help, this is how we fix your problem, these are some of the key benefits. Maybe you've got an FAQ section, maybe you've got a useful video, an infographic, a relevant podcast, and then maybe you've got some social proof. So you've got some testimonials or some results or some client videos where you've really helped them. And then you've got a clear call to action, like request a demo or request a consult or whatever that next step is you want to take. So those are just some key pointers that just help with conversion, help with trust building on pages on your site.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One of the other questions that I really want to ask you about, Sam, is some of the common mistakes that companies can do. I think we have already pointed out a couple of them, including not having the right content, not using the right keywords. Anything else that specifically comes to your mind when you talk to your customers and you see that this is one of the biggest mistakes that they're making?
Loads. More than we got time for. But one of the biggest, we can do a couple. I mean, on a website point of view, one of the worst things you can do with your website, especially if you're a B2B company and you've got a sales team that this website needs to fuel a steady flow of qualified sales leads to, is designing the website for what you think looks good. So designing the website to stroke either your own ego or your marketing team's ego or your C-suite's ego, because that means the site's only going to appeal to you. And ultimately, you're not trying to convert yourself, you're trying to convert your target clients. So customer research, customer interviews for your website is really important because it can fuel your design. So actually how your website looks and feels. It can fuel the content that goes into the main pages, and it can also fuel the structure of these pages. As a quick example, a couple months ago on the Web Choice site, we were redesigning our pricing page because we were getting a lot of inquiries that couldn't actually afford our stuff. So we thought, right, let's revamp our pricing page. For example, on the SEO pages, we want to quickly give an idea of the starting rates, so people can see kind of where we start at. And then we wanted to reinforce that with things like the main benefits you get, some frequently asked questions, and then some results we've got for clients. So in my case, I asked a few chief marketing officers, 4 or 5, guys, can you spare 2 minutes to flick through this page? Let me know your feedback. What looks good? What needs improvement? What's missing? And straight away, some of them said, Sam, the pricing's not high enough up. We had to scroll halfway down the page before we could actually see how much it costs. That's frustrating. And they gave you some other useful feedback. And what you want to do is, on these customer interviews, ideal prospect interviews, you want to look for patterns in what they say. So if something's being raised a lot of times, then you think, well, this is an issue. We need to actually address that. So, for example, some actionable tips here is if you've already got a website and you're looking to redesign it to attract, build trust with, and convert ideal clients, then you either want to interview 5 to 7 of your best current clients, or 5 to 7 or so of your best target prospects, and ask them things like, what's working well on our site, what's not, what needs improvement on certain pages, what do you feel is missing on current pages, was really useful, and any other comments. So you can really understand, look, what's working well, what needs improvement. And they might say, look, your pricing page doesn't actually give pricing. I actually have to fill out a form just to speak to sales, which is frustrating. Or maybe they want to see your process, or maybe they feel you don't have enough case studies. So this is really valuable insight. And like I say, you want to look for common trends and patterns and the feedback, because that can really help fuel your website and make sure that it's actually geared up to attract the people that you want to convert, rather than just guessing on what looks good or designing it for your own taste, because that's pointless.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for pointing out that as a mistake, because even I've heard those kind of things happening. And customer research, in fact, plays a very vital role for any marketing team. And I think that's where the sales team can also come into play. And we always see that marketing and sales go hand in hand. So marketing team can in fact get a lot of perspectives from the sales team, because the sales is kind of doing it every day. They're in front of the customers. They know what's working when they're selling the product, what's not working. And sometimes the customers might also tell you that during your demonstrations, where are they coming from, what's wrong with the website. So I guess definitely that plays a major role. But I think, thank you so much, Sam, for participating in today's podcast.
And there you have it. I hope you found this episode useful. As always, if you're on the audio podcast, a quick rating or review is appreciated. On YouTube, a quick subscribe goes a really long way. And with that, I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.